Hello, little bees. Welcome to part five of this never-ending series, Stories from the Inside, where I'm interviewing current students, past students, my friends, and seeing their school experience to figure out what's wrong and what's right with the school system as it stands today. I have another one of my wonderful friends here. Please introduce yourself.
Oh boy. Hello, guys. I'm Carly, I guess. That's fine. I don't have a cool name. It's fine. Hello. Okay, that's much better.
Okay. So, wonderful.
Okay.
Let's get into this.
Okay.
Tell me about your school experience. Elementary, middle, high.
Oh boy. So, I actually, before I started elementary school, I went to 3 years of preschool at my church. I don't remember what it was called. It was just like preschool at St. Paul's United Methodist Church. I got bullied there. It started from a very young age. I began to get bullied at a very young age, by one girl, but that doesn't matter. It only carried on to elementary school. Elementary school was fine. Third grade wasn't the best, but I don't know if you want me to elaborate on that, but
Do whatever you need to.
elementary school was fine, but for third grade, I had a teacher that would bully the class. She would rip up papers in front of students and stuff, and she made fun of my penguin drawing, and I still haven't forgotten it. I never will forget it, because that only pursued me to become the artist that I am today, which I think is very funny. After that, that's also where my fear of math came from, because I had an incident while taking the Maryland school assessment for elementary school. I was very sick, and I actually got sick in the classroom, but she would not let me go, and then was incredibly mad with me when I didn't leave. And my mom was the nurse that day, and she was very mad. I got switched out of that class, but yeah, elementary school wasn't fun. I got picked on in middle school. That's also when I kind of started, noticing signs that maybe I wasn't like the other kids, because I'm gay, but don't worry about that. It's fine. Don't worry.
No one worries about that.
No, not at all. So middle school wasn't fun because I also was in an accident because of the middle school, so that wasn't fun either. High school was fine. Kind of. I haven't had a very good experience with school, if you could tell, because it went from my brother meeting his ex. From there, she ended up manipulating us. I was also bullied in high school, but I stopped caring. It's something I've learned. And now it's 2021. I've lost mostly my entire senior year, which is fine, I guess. I mean, I'm not upset. I am upset. Thank you, co-host. You're my co-host now. This is my show.
No, it's not.
Because
Anyway.
on B&A. I know you did.
Anyway. Anything else to add?
I can't wait for college.
All right. It sounds like you'll have a very interesting perspective on this whole school thing. I'm excited to hear it.
Oh boy.
Tell me about your best teacher and what made them so good.
That's hard, because, I have two very specific teachers in mind.
You can talk about both of them.
Okay.
That's fine.
So the first one I'll go on is my second third grade teacher, because I had to have two, because after my first third grade teacher, we'll call her Miss S, because her name started with an S, and also stands for snake, because she was a snake. She was incredibly mean, to the point where I would end up getting sick every day, so I wouldn't go to school, which ended up causing issues in the future. So thanks a lot, Miss S. If you're listening, you're probably not, but if you are, I hate you. Anyway. So my mother, she put her foot down, because this is the second time the schools had failed her. My brother had. incidents before, and I don't know if you want to talk about that later, but I have a lot of problems with the school systems.
Maybe we'll interview him later.
You could. He'll probably just say something dumb and laugh at himself.
That's fine. We've had a lot of dumb things
Oh
here.
boy. So my mom put her foot down. She's like, this is the second time school has put my children through all heck, and sorry for the profanity, but
My God.
So she put her foot down, we moved classes, and I had a teacher. Her name was Miss C. We'll call her Miss C because her name started with a C. Whoa, crazy, I know. And I only had her after the Maryland school assessment. So I only had like 2 months in school left for that year. And my mother knows Miss C very well because she had a lot to do with my brother. And we found out that he had a disability, and she's just an incredibly nice lady. And they couldn't fire her because she'd been working at that school for over 10 years. So she had this pass where she just couldn't be fired. It was crazy. The day I walked into her class, I saw all my friends, because all of my friends were not in my classes. But I remember walking in, my friend Morgan was there. She was like, Carly, sit next to me. And then I did, and we played games that day. And it was so much fun, and she was so sweet. And like, I remember specifically one day I came into class, and I looked really sick. I was just a pale kid, so I just looked sick a lot. But she was like, are you tired? Do you want to take a nap? I can call your mom and she can come get you and you can take a nap. And I was like, you're so sweet. Like, little me was like, oh, no, because my mom would be mad if my teacher called and was like, can I take a nap? So, yeah, I really love her and I miss her a lot. And I should probably email her because I am where I am now and I just miss her a whole bunch. Like, I think about her a lot. My second teacher was between 10th and 11th grade. She was my Algebra 1 and Geometry teacher. No, she was my Geometry teacher and Algebra 2 teacher. I didn't like my Algebra 1 teacher. We'll call her Miss D, not to be confused with the teacher that might have been mentioned, Miss DiGiacomo. She's been
mentioned a lot. We've talked about her quite a bit.
Okay, this is not Miss D, so I'll just call her by her real name because I like her. Her name's Miss Dory.
Yes, I've heard stories of Miss Dory. I never had the honor of having her.
I love Miss Dory. So, I mentioned I have a fear of math because of the incident that I had, and I would get fun of a lot by that same 3rd grade teacher in the first place, Miss S, she just would make fun of my math skills, and I ended up becoming very afraid of being ridiculed for my poor math skills. But Miss Dory, she would sit there and explain things to me in different ways just until I understood it. And she was always the first teacher to notice when something was wrong. She never left me out. She never just assumed that when I had a bad day, I was having a bad day. She took my anxiety seriously, and it was very, very nice to know that, like, out of anyone in the school, my Geometry and Algebra 2 teacher was just the most understanding woman that I've ever met in my life, teacher-wise. But it's like one of those teachers you'll just never forget, you know? Like, and I've had another teacher like that for chemistry. I wasn't good at math, and I told her that, and she was also like that. But Miss Dory, she just blew it out of the water, teaching-wise. She just, you know, she's just a good woman, and she deserves the world.
That's great. That's awesome. I've had a lot of good math teachers too. I never really struggled with math, but they still were good, and they like made me still want to do it, which is nice.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
So you talked a lot about very, very bad teachers.
Yes.
So I don't know if you need to answer this question again or further elaborate, but tell me about your worst teacher.
Okay. Let me tell you about Miss S. Okay. So I'll describe her for you. Imagine she's a very tall, lanky woman. She's incredibly thin. Yes, I know, Samuel. But, like, she looked sickly. The only kids she cared about were her 3 kids.
Like actual children?
Yeah, her 3 actual children. She was incredibly mean to her husband because her husband was incredibly nice. He was my soccer coach, and he always believed in me. But Miss Stutzman was just so awful to him.
The logic doesn't make sense. She was mean to him because he was nice.
I've also given away her name. It's Miss Stutzman. I don't care anymore. She can come and fight me. I don't care. She probably wouldn't be able to. I just snap her like a twig. But like, and I remember walking into her class and being like, oh, she looks okay, I guess. Like, you know, a third grader's mindset. Until like we were a week into her class, and the student had moved forward with their math work because they knew how to do the math. So, like, you know, that's not a problem in high school. If you know how to do the work, you can just continue because you don't need help and rather get it done and have it done. But she felt so offended if you continued to move on that she would take the kids' paper, rip it up in front of them, and make an example out of them.
Huh.
Right. My mother, she would tell you a story that I don't remember because I blocked out most of her class. Besides the times that she would let a little boy harass other girls and say weird things, and she would not take them seriously.
That's not good.
It's not. She should not be a teacher. She hates teaching. But like, what was
That's probably a good sign that she shouldn't be a teacher, yeah.
Yeah, but my mother, she remembers we had like a Christmas party before they let out for like Christmas break, and she would tell you that when she walked into that room, all the kids were silent. None of them were talking. This is a third grade room on a Christmas party. None of them were speaking. We were all too scared to speak. We were horrified of that woman. And when she was like, oh, I love you guys. I'd rather spend Christmas with you guys than my own family. Like, who says that?
There's a couple of red flags in that sentence,
I don't like this woman. My mother was just like, jeez Louise. And then my dad was kind of like, oh, you know, he didn't really believe us because, you know, he'd never been in this situation. Until I was in 4th grade. We were walking to my 4th grade teacher's room. And so, if it's easier to imagine, there's a giant hallway, and then the hallway splits into a T. You'd continue going forward into the room that was right there, and that would be the 4th grade room. And if you took a hard right, you would go out to the portables where she was. As we were walking in, we had to wait in line because my 4th grade teacher was getting things ready for the class because she had come in late because she was taking care of a baby at the time. And this teacher, Miss Stutzman, had all of her students sitting against the wall, and she was screaming at these kids. Screaming. My father, when he only told me years later, he was just sitting on the couch and he was like, I have to tell you something. And I was like, and we were just talking about my elementary school life. And he was like, if you were not in that room, if you were to go off to the bathroom, I would have fist fought that teacher for screaming at those kids and making them cry the way they did. I would have clobbered her. And I was like, you should have, Dad. But he didn't, because, you know, he would get arrested. Yeah. But no, she was miserable. She's a miserable lady, and she just didn't want to be there. And why did she keep going? Probably, we don't know. Why is she not fired? She still works there. We went to a parade because before COVID hit, before it was like an incredibly like awful thing. I wasn't feeling good one day, so I didn't go to school. And they were having the little so our school would have this little Halloween parade, right? And my mom was like, we should go watch, because I was starting to feel better, and she thought I needed some fresh air. And mind you, I'm in 11th grade at this point. This was right before COVID had hit, but like, so maybe 2019, October of 2019.
Okay.
So, I'm an 11th grader. I've already turned 18. I'm 17. But I'm an adult. And when I saw that woman, my instinct was to cower behind my mother. And my mother looked at me, looked at that teacher, looked back at me, and she's like, we should sue her for the amount of emotional damage she's caused you.
That is a very bad sign.
Right? Like, I didn't even think about it. I just didn't want her seeing me because I was scared she'd remember me. I was terrified. When we moved classes, she looked at my mother, looked at me, and was just like, you know, every teacher's gonna be like me. She's not gonna escape from what I'm like. And then walked away. That was the morning we went to talk to the principal to move me out of the class.
That sounds like a villain.
She is a villain.
That's a villain. That's a thing a villain says before the hero walks away.
When I was in the principal's office and he's like, "Can you spend one more day in Miss Stutzman's classroom?" I was visibly shaking. And he's like, "You don't even have to go back in that classroom. We'll move you." She didn't get fired. That should have been an incident report. Like, it is mind-blowing that she even got to teach. It's crazy. Okay, before I get too heated.
I've heard that story it still floors me. It's every time. So anyway, we'll move on to the next question.
I'm about to get heated.
Were you in any gifted student programs?
No, God, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, the alternate question I've been asking everyone, what was your perception of the kids in gifted student programs in elementary school, whatever, honors? You know what I mean.
My only real thought was like, man, I miss my friends. They're in a different class and I'm sad. And that was it. Like, because I had a lot of gifted friends because, I don't know, I just was never placed in the gifted classes. I don't know. Yeah. It just didn't happen. I was just a normal student.
I know, I was in my, my elementary school's Highly Able program, which doesn't exist anymore, I don't think.
Do they not?
I can't find it anywhere online.
So I don't know.
I'm kind of worried it was all a dream, but
no.
No, I know. So I was in the Highly Able program, and I don't know. It was just kind of higher level stuff. We read a lot and did essays. You know, elementary school essays. A very long paragraph. It's just one long paragraph. It's one long sentence.
Yeah.
But no, so the Highly Able it was fine. The reason this has been a point of discussion that keeps coming up in my Education in America class, where I don't know why, just the gifted program keeps coming up, and I'm like, there's something wrong with this.
Well, I don't think it's an awful thing. I mean, why hold a student back if they're excelling?
You're right. Except. It segregates. Because oftentimes, I read an article the other day. I read 2 sentences of an article.
Wow, so much information.
I read a bit, and it was like, in the gifted programs, it's often white and Asian students.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
But no, it was mainly white and Asian students. And I think if I remember correctly, this was elementary school, so it was 12 years ago. But from what I remember, yeah, it was mainly white students.
That seems to be an issue in my school. We had a lot of kids from, I don't want to be, oh, yes, sorry, I should sit up. A lot of students from different backgrounds at our school. We had kids from, I don't want to say they're from Mexico because I don't know where they're from. I have one
Hispanic.
friend. Yeah, Hispanic. A lot of Hispanic students. A lot of Black students. I believe so. I don't know. I don't mean to offend anyone. That's not my goal here.
It's not the goal on this channel.
I just didn't think before I spoke.
It's fine.
We had a lot of Black kids in our programs, white kids too. I mean, like, it was never a big issue. Nothing that we noticed.
And it's not always a big issue.
Okay. Our school's superior.
Yeah, well, it's not always an issue in individual schools, but across the system, it's an issue. In New York, from this article I read, according to the article, in New York, they admitted like 7 Black kids out of 650 students.
Oh.
And it, like, Black America, they're like 65% of the population. So that's a big problem.
Yeah,
and segregation is a big enough issue in schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
You already know that, as we discussed earlier when we interviewed Dalton, we talked about how the school determines who you are by race because that's what they tell you are. Right. So you just start living that. One of the books I've been reading for Education in America, it's this like memoir of his teacher, and he taught a lot of African Americans, and a lot of the time they would be put into the bad kid class.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It was a thing. It was the non-honor or the non. They were put into the after school. There was the special class. Exactly. And then they were just told, this is who you are. And then they lived that. Like there was actual elementary school level kids getting into gangs because of this. This is an issue no one covers. And I've read every article I read never talks about the problems with honors programs. I'm not saying this is an exclusive honors program thing, but it's not helping. It's still segregating kids, and it's starting at a young age. You are being put into a category, right, of you will succeed or you have failed us.
Right.
I know my experience with honors program, I think, affected how I became as a high schooler. I took a lot of AP classes. And I think it was that sort of perception in elementary school. You are better than these other kids. You will succeed. Just told me I have to. I have to take the challenge courses. I have to make it worth it, or something like that. I'm not saying that's the only thing that caused. I think it was a factor though. And and off of me personally, I don't think it's fair to put the good kids in the good classes and the not so good kids in the bad classes.
I don't think there should be bad classes.
There shouldn't. And here's my thing. So schools want to get the good test scores, right? How would you get the good test scores if you were a school? You'd want everyone to be on the same page, right? So why would you put them into two different groups?
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense from any standpoint.
And that's the whole thing, because so I hope my brother doesn't mind if I share his experience real quick. But if there was, I don't know if there were bad classes in my elementary school, because, well, my brother is a white man, but he has an incredibly severe case of dyslexia. And the only reason I never thought bad classes were a thing was because he was literally one of the students that was possibly failing elementary school. And the school was like, we're not going to do anything about it. So it's just weird to think that any student with any whether, and it might be because he's a white little boy, maybe, I don't know, but it's kind of mind-boggling to hear that just because maybe a student is the color of their skin or the fact that they're just failing a little bit is oh, you're gonna fail in life just right there and then. You're not fully developed until 25. So
societal racism is so ingrained in America that adults are willing to judge children from the age of pre-K.
That is awful. I didn't know, I've been trying to specifically learn more about racism in most different colors of people, because I think it's important that I know that, because it only helps us move America forward. Turns out I still have a lot to learn about the school systems.
Maybe you should take this class.
I cannot.
Well, anyone out there who's thinking of a college and you want to learn more about racism, come to my college.
Yeah, put your own promo in there. Why don't you?
No, that's not what I'm. But no, seriously though, some of the articles I've read have been eye-opening, and some of the podcasts I've listened to have been eye-opening. There was one, and this is a question for later. We will talk about equity later, but this is it. I've been wanting to talk about this gifted student program for a while, and no one's really brought it up.
Okay.
Even my brother, who is also in gifted student program, never saw this perception of, oh, there might be something wrong. Shut up. No, but something hasn't been seen with me right about this. And one of the podcasts I listened to was punishments for children, right? Discipline. And and I was thinking, oh, okay, this is going to be about how discipline isn't right for kids, because there's obviously a lot of problems with how discipline is doled out these days. But no, it was still about racism, and it was about how and almost a bit of sexism, because you know how girls will come in with a sleeveless shirt and be expelled, and a guy will do the same thing or worse and
his shirt off
and he'll be fine. But with elementary schoolers, I I think it was either expelled or sent a girl to jail because of the way she wore her hair, because it wasn't black enough or something like that.
Black enough?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I've heard cases of like students, like black students having like cornrows in their hair and them having to be expelled because it's not dress code. But I've never heard the phrase, your hair isn't black enough.
I think it was, again, it's horrible. There's this societal racism, like, people of a certain race should be this way, and if they aren't, they're wrong. But you also punish them for being that way because it's not what you are. There's
no way around it. If you're black, white people or any person will find a reason to freaking just be against you. You're not black enough.
If you're any
black, it's disgusting.
If you're a person, someone will find a reason to hate you nowadays. The white. We've had a discussion about that. It's not for this podcast. But anyway, before we get too heated and this just becomes the entire podcast, let's move on to the next question. Did you take any AP classes in high school, or do you plan to?
No.
Fair point. So what was your perception of the AP program, though? I've taken AP classes. You've seen my experience.
Well, when I was younger, I assumed AP classes were something you were put in, not something you chose.
Almost like an honors program.
Yes. And then I learned it was a choice. And I didn't really know much of AP classes, but I knew my two friends, the Shaw twins. They would take AP classes. They do take AP classes, and Jessica takes AP classes, and as such. But they would just kind of like take these classes. They were so excited to start, and all of a sudden, it's like they just hated it. Everything about it, they just didn't like. But no, I would be like, how's your AP class? And they would tell me how much work, how many chapters they have to read in one night to only go back to talk about it the next day. I would sit there and I'd be like, you cannot absorb that much information in one night without your brain exploding. But like, they keep going because it's college credits. And I find that most of my friends need to take these classes because they might not have the money to take that much college. So, and you still have to pay for AP classes anyway. Like, this is high school. There shouldn't be, like, exclusive membership passes that you have to buy, like, in video games or something. Like,
loot boxes,
but they're AP worksheets, and you just cry. Also, you have to do them over the summer. Like, no, this is dumb. It's stupid, and I never wanted to take one. I did want to take one because I really liked the teacher, but then I realized I had to know calculus, and I'm in pre-calc currently, so big no.
Physics? Mm-hmm. No calculus? Okay.
So I didn't do that. And that's my vision on AP classes, that they are just scams, honestly.
I like that. I don't think we've had the perception of that. Specifically, like, we've had people say, oh, it's fine, it's for those who want to. I've had the perception of just, it's awful and no one should ever do it. It's
a scam. It's taking your money. And some colleges, like, I rarely think that out of state schools will actually take your credits. They mean nothing. They literally mean nothing. I
think loot boxes is actually a pretty good metaphor for AP classes, because it's a random chance if you're going to get credit or not.
Right.
It really is.
Also, I think that if you get a 3, because also colleges will change whether you want to, like, so some colleges only like a 5 to take one, and the average is 3. So they're basically cheating you out of your program, because they don't tell you what you can, like, use until after you've applied to the school. So, like, at least that's what I believe. That's what I've been told. But, like, no, it's literally just cheating you out of your money. College is a scam.
College is a scam as well. College board is a scam. College is fine. College board
had to go to court.
I remember that.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
It's my opinion that I remember when I was starting to take AP classes, and they were like, Even if you don't pass the test, you should get credit for taking the class.
No,
Because
you
it shows, but no, you don't.
You don't.
And it's
The
dumb.
real world doesn't work that way. You either succeed or you don't.
Well,
And that's the whole thing. That's that.
and you know the story of my AP calculus test. You know how much of a pain that was.
Yeah. So
But-
they basically cheated you out of your test twice, and
Yeah.
it was miserable.
And then I failed it. But I came to college, took a college level calculus course, and it was the exact same thing I did in AP calculus. I knew everything. I was ahead of the teacher by 2 steps because I just knew everything. And yet, I still had to take it.
Look at you, smart kids.
Okay, you know, you get the point.
I
though.
get the point. Yeah.
Anything else sad about the AP?
Other than that, it's a scam. No.
Okay. So, how did your school handle conflict psychology issues / bullying? It didn't sound very well from your stories that you said.
I had the police threatened on me at one point. I had a mental breakdown in one of my classes. And the human growth and development teacher did not know how to handle my breakdown. Recently my parents had been going through a divorce, and I had been moving between like 3 houses at the time because my brother also had his own place. So I didn't know where to go. I was under constant stress. I didn't know how to act. The teacher had promised to help us with our final, which was a binder of things we'd learned. And she promised to give us time to work on them, but we couldn't take the binder out of the classroom. And she never gave us time to work on it. So when we all collectively failed because of her mistake, I freaked out because she was telling us that she was so disappointed in us when I didn't understand. And obviously I wasn't going through the right mindset to understand that it wasn't my fault. You cannot tell me that it was my fault. I cannot believe you at this point. And I had a breakdown. I panicked. And there was a correctional teacher in the room at the time. She helped Miss Bridwell. And my poor friend Kayla, she was in the class with me, and the correctional teacher grabbed me. They physically grabbed me. So I threw my glasses at her. I threw them at the ground. I did not throw them at her, but I did not want her to touch me. And my friend Kayla yelled at her to stop, and she was like, "Carly, I will call the correctional officers on you. They will put you in handcuffs and they will make you leave." So I left the room, and then I went to the guidance counselor. The one guidance counselor told me to stop being a child and suck it up, and only when my guidance counselor came in, I told him everything that happened.
He was a good guidance counselor.
He didn't do anything, though. He did nothing for, like, my situation that I was in. Like,
Right.
So...
But at least he wasn't like...
He just let me sit there and cry, which was nice. And then we called my mom, and my poor mom didn't know what to do, because... And only recently have I told my dad that this happened, because now my father and I have a better relationship. But he looked at me, he went, "The teacher grabbed you." And I went, "Yes, she technically has the right to grab students because she's a correctional officer." And he's like, "Oh my god, if she ever gives you one more small issue, I'm gonna sue the school." So that was a thing.
Technically assault.
That is, she did technically assault me. She did grab me, and it did leave a mark on my arm. But, like, there was nothing I could do because then no one took me seriously. So I do have a big issue with the school when it comes to psychological issues, because nobody gets help. There was another incident where my friend Jessica, like, we were having a fire drill, and my friend Jessica was having a panic attack. Twice she had a panic attack. And one when the alarms went off for the fire drill, and another one she just needed her medication. So the first one where she needed her medication, I took her to the nurse's office, and they wouldn't give her medication because school hadn't started yet. And we walked We walked 2 steps. She couldn't do it. I walked back. I looked her in the eye and I said, "You are going to give her the medication she needs, and you are going to do your job."
This is a fair response.
And she looked at me. She looked angry, and then she looked scared because I told her to do her job. And she was like, "Fine." And I said, "Damn right." And I left. And I left Jessica because I had to go to class, and she didn't want me there. She never had any more beef with me after that. We were completely fine. I think she was just having an awful day because I think something happened with her husband, and she told me later on because she apologized. But the fact that happened, no, the nurse, the nurse did, because she was like, "I'm so sorry," and I was like,
Jess doesn't have a husband.
But I had, I was like, yeah, no, you're gonna do your job. And because that was the first time I'd ever gotten that mad where I told someone to literally do their job because I was worried for my friend. I love her with my heart, and like I just couldn't let her do that. And then we had a emergent fire drill, and she was having a panic attack, and Miss Debbie comes in. And I looked at Miss DeWitt and I said, you are going to stay with her because last time Miss Debbie was involved, she grabbed me. And I think I told her, I was like, do not put your hands on her like you put your hands on me. And like I looked at her and I think she remembered, and she did not put her hands on Jessica. I was like, no way. If I'm being involved in this, you do not put your hands on anyone. If there's one thing I've been taught in my life, it's you never put your hands on a woman. Never put your hands on a woman. And I was going to make sure that Jessica was not going to be touched in any sort of way that she did not want to be touched, because that is assault, and I would not let that happen. So I think I'm a better teacher than any of these teachers.
I applaud you for your strength and your ability to stand up to people who do you wrong. Like, no, like legitimate, like that people who do things that are not okay, and you're just able to be like, this is what you're going to do. I couldn't do that.
Well, I feel it so strongly in my heart because no one else would fight for me like that. So I have to fight for others. I have to be their hero when there's no one else to be their hero.
That's a nice thought. I like it. Okay. So, again, a very different perception.
School's a scam. Thank you.
Well, last time we talked about Joseph, my bully, and how the school didn't. Well, we didn't fully get into this.
I would destroy him.
How we didn't, but the school didn't do anything for me. Mainly because I didn't say anything, because I didn't know what to say, because no one was on my side at the time. But anyway.
Such a school dropout.
Fair point.
And he'll never amount to anything without his daddy helping him.
I'm gonna move off of that.
Okay, cool.
So did your school, we've already talked about this before, but specifically your schools, did they do anything for equity?
Equity?
Racism, gender, sexuality, stuff like that. Sexism, yeah.
No matter what your gender, sexuality, or race is, we'll all treat you equally, bull. No, didn't happen.
Signs posted around the high school.
Yeah, those are the... And they didn't mean anything. They didn't mean anything at the time. They still don't.
Neither did the posters in Spanish.
You can't speak Spanish, Mr. AP Spanish.
Okay. I didn't finish AP Spanish. We talked about this. We talked about this.
You were willing to drop.
We talked about this before during this podcast. I think it was yesterday.
Don't listen to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Continue, please.
Anyway, so... so I said I got bullied a lot in high school, and that only lasted for so long before people realized that I didn't care about their opinions on me. So I wasn't a big... I didn't receive... The only bullying I would honestly see is from the teachers. Like, a lot of my friends would just start crying because the teachers would just say shit to them.
Related to equity?
Well, it could have been anyone. Like, my friend Chris, he is trans, and the teachers will not respect his pronouns because they are he, him, and right. And so whenever I'm in a class with him and they use she, her pronouns, I make sure to correct them instantly, because if Chris won't do it, I will.
Raise pronouns.
Oh yeah, Gray changed his name.
I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Love that for us. So, I mean, I haven't really been... I kind of saw bullying in my school. I didn't talk to many people, so I didn't really see it. I was never particularly bullied, because it was hard to bully me, because I'd be overly nice, and people would say stuff, and I'd be like, yes, and you look like a sack of potatoes, and like that's like the amount of where I'd go, and they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, what? I'd be like, what? And then they'd be like, oh, okay. And then we'd just talk. I got along well with students, so I wasn't, but otherwise, no, I don't know if I really saw anything. I just didn't have a lot of friends outside of my very small group, so I don't know what I saw and what I didn't. That's not to say that there isn't in our school. I highly doubt that there isn't. There probably is, and I just have never seen it. I mean, I just don't talk to a lot of kids, so it just wasn't a thing for me to really. I can't really have an opinion on it, is what I'm saying. I don't have the right to say anything because I didn't see it.
And that's kind of where I am. I didn't get involved in a lot of stuff, like in a lot of, I kind of stuck to my own in high school. But a few of the things that we've heard so far through this podcast is sexual orientation isn't really a thing that people pick on, but gender identity.
Oh, there was. I mean, there was a big issue where,
we're
just
going to talk about that in a second.
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're going to talk about. Don't worry, I planned it. The rednecks in school were always a big problem. Yes. They just pick on anyone who isn't them. Yeah. Basically. But the thing that you were going to talk about one of the other common things that we've heard about, that we've been talking about, is the GSA and the whole protest against it, the social media and the threats and all. So tell me about your side of that.
Oh God. So I was very much so this is going to be weird because I identify as non-binary. I'm a B. But I didn't really know that at the time. I just knew that I felt different. And when all of this was happening, that only scared me into hiding more, because I didn't want to be picked on. But when it became a big issue and all of my friends were suddenly like, we need to do something about it, my first instinct was someone is going to get hurt. Because that's what society has taught us, that if you are not normal, you're going to get hurt. And that's, especially my dad taught me that because he grew up in the hood. So if you're different, you get hurt. And I was afraid. I was legitimately afraid to the point where I was like, guys, I know you want to fix this. But one of the kids that was mostly affected was a 9th grader. He was small and I was afraid for him. Who's to say that no one could just take him into the bathroom and pummel him to what could possibly be near his life? Because I just don't know. And I'm a very anxious person when it comes to these things too. But I feared so much. And they just wanted to fight, and maybe I'm just not a fighter. I'm not. I'm as violent as I may seem, as assertive as I may seem. I don't think anyone should get hurt because of who they love, and like, love is worth fighting for, but love is not worth dying. Not even that. Love just you shouldn't have to fight for love, and no one should pick on you. But I don't know. It was so weird, and I went to my friend Chris because I was like, I can't be the only person feeling like this. And Chris was like, I'm also afraid for my life, and I don't want to fight like this. So he came over and we had a conversation about it. Because at the time when I was just kind of like an ally, I was just afraid for anyone to get hurt. I was scared, and we went on a walk and we saw one of my teachers, and I explained why I was so scared. And she agreed that I should have been afraid because, if one of us were to get hurt and they found out that one of the students were gay, that could instantly mean that they don't care anymore, because you don't know how people are. If 2 kids get bullied and it's like, oh, a fight broke out, then both of them are going to get reprimanded. But homophobia could instantly just be the blind eye factor. And that wasn't a risk I was willing to take, especially in high school. I was terrified. I was still a kid, and I felt like I shouldn't have to fight that fight yet. But it was like that, and it was scary. There's just so much that could have happened. Other students were literally threatening to shoot people from the GSA, and the school didn't do anything. Barely did a thing.
Very minimal. And we've had different accounts of this. We spoke to the president, Gray, earlier, and they were like, yeah, they did. They really helped me, actually. they the threats were, they tried to mitigate them as much as possible, but they can't do much. And then we've had other perceptions like you, they didn't do much of anything. We had announcements.
Yeah, there was announcements.
That doesn't do anything.
That was the point. And I was in one of my classes, and the teacher didn't do anything about it. One of the kids was like, "I'm just going to shoot him," and the teacher didn't say anything.
I did that announcement. I was there for now. I was doing the morning announcements when we had that.
I did think I threw something at that. I don't know if he actually noticed because of his thick skull. Anyway,
my personal opinion of the whole thing when we were deciding whether or not to do the protest actually was because my friends were affected, my friends were being threatened. I was like, I'm going to do anything to help them.
Yeah,
and that's like both our reactions is perfectly valid. Being scared is perfectly reasonable. Like this was a scary time, but in my opinion, like nothing can happen without having that.
And eventually, I did take their side, and I did do something about it. I just took some convincing, but yeah. Well, when we were in class the next day and I was wearing a pin, one of the students literally came up to us and he was like, "All right, this is why we shouldn't be doing this." And I was like, "You need to go sit your ass back down and you need to not talk to us." And he was like, "Okay." And he left because I didn't want to hear it. I was wearing my pin because I was wearing my pin. I wasn't doing it for no reason. I was doing it because
wearing a cruise sport.
Yeah. And I was just like, and I was like, I'm not gonna debate you on who I love. And he was like, "But what if we did?" And I was like, "Sit your ass back down." And that was the end of it. He walked away. I think I'm a scary person.
You are sometimes.
Sometimes.
I will say this was not a good time for the school. This is a very dark time for the school. This was our version of the dark ages in the school. But one of the good things that did come out was a lot of the teachers did rally around us. Yeah. They did support us. They wore the pins. They had the flags. Obviously, Mr. Giacomo supported us. Yeah. No, they do. Oh, okay. I think it was Dalton who actually talked about it. Yes, everyone's. But no, it was a very, again, and this is probably going to be a theme that just kind of keeps coming up because it's a big moment in the school and obviously a very equity related thing. But no. And one of the main takeaways there when I said they're very glad that we have 50 GSA.
Yeah, I like it. I don't go to the meetings because I don't have time, but Gray knows that I would do anything for them.
Apparently we had one before. Like before I was even in the school, before anyone that...
I don't know. I'd have to ask Tristan. Because
I don't even know if Tristan would know.
I don't know how long ago it was.
I don't either.
He was just a wrestler.
But anyway, we'll move on to the next question unless you have anything else to add.
I could talk about when my brother was in school and how... It's because it was a lot different when my brother was in school. Apparently, there was a lot of racial issues when he was in school.
Really?
Yeah, even though their principal was black. But he would tell me a lot of the times that, like, his friends that were wrestlers, and a couple of them were black. Not a lot of them, but, like, a good amount to where it'd be like, yeah, okay. I don't know how much that is, but, like, he definitely had a couple of black friends on his wrestling team. And a lot of them were seen by the teachers as aggressive because they were bigger, because obviously you're by weight class. And a couple of his black friends were just bigger because they worked out. Whoa, something to do. Because, get them gains, bro.
Right.
But, like...
And the goal of wrestling.
Yeah, to be stronger than your other opponent. So they worked out. And a lot of the times by other teachers, specifically, like, maybe the older white teachers, would see them as aggressive, even though they were just joking around or something, or they made a comment, like, I don't know, to their girlfriends or whatever. Tristan mentioned something where he was like, oh yeah, he told a comment to his girlfriend because he was like, oh damn you hot girl, like, or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And he was sent to the office for sexual harassment. That doesn't happen. I don't know if that still happens, but Tristan was like, hey, that's a really shitty thing to do, miss whatever your name was.
Right.
And she was like, what do you got to say about it? And Tristan was like, I know it wouldn't be happening if I said it, now would it? And then she was like, are you backsassing me? And he's like, nope, just calling out a racist. And she was like, okay, you can go to the office too. And then the teacher got, that was the issue, but the teacher didn't win.
That's good. I'm glad she didn't win.
No.
All right. I guess. I don't know. It seems like we're a little bit better nowadays. Not perfect. Far from it.
Did you hear about a girl?
No.
Hold on. But there was an incident, and I don't know what school, but apparently a boy or like a black student had a toy BB gun in his room, and he had moved it so his little brother wouldn't get to it, and now it is marked on his record that he brought a gun to school, even though it was all over Zoom.
I just have to take that in for a second.
I signed a petition to get that mark off of his record and to call his teacher a racist.
No, yeah, that you can't. We're not at school.
No, we're not.
You can't do that.
We're afraid to freaking turn their cameras on because, like, they're gonna get judged for what's in their room, and then.
That's why I use my white wall. No one can fault me for a white wall. White brick wall.
Why is it gotta be white?
Because that's what the school painted it.
Whoa. Sorry. So sorry.
It's like elementary school.
But yeah, that's just one of the. I signed a petition to get that off his name because I thought that was the dumbest thing ever in existence of ever.
I think it's good that they have a petition. That's very good.
Yeah, I think it's going. I don't know where it's going to. Where like that. I think it's going to the school to be like, take that off his record. But I don't know if it's going. It's like a Congress thing because sometimes they have petitions for Congress to be like, and that teacher should be
This is
fired.
gonna be the next Supreme Court. Okay. That's a very interesting story. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But we'll move on.
Okay.
So Mr. Governor Hogan wanted to I read an article the other day for Education in America, and it was like Governor Hogan wants to reopen schools
by March 1st.
By March 1st. What's your opinion on that?
No.
Good. Okay. That's been the general consensus. Please elaborate if you want to. Or
my brother got COVID over the Christmas break.
Is that all you can say?
Maybe, I don't know. So my brother, out of many other people, had gotten the COVID vaccine. Correct. That was a thing. It did happen. And little did we know, he didn't get tested for COVID before he got his shot, which is like one of the reasons they have to get tested now. He's one of the people. That's one of the reasons. So if you have COVID and you get the COVID vaccine, you get incredibly sick. You get mega COVID, kind of. You ever heard of mega COVID? It's not good. He was with us at the time because he lives at a different home, and my mother's a nurse. They're both on the front lines, which is how he caught it because he's just on the front lines. But and he got so sick to the point where he was coughing up blood, and we literally thought he was going to die. He would wake up every morning and just hack, and he'd throw up in the bathroom. He was literally my alarm because it'd be at a certain time every day. He'd just get sick and he'd throw up. He'd get fevers. He was just constantly miserable. It was awful to watch. Also, no one else in our family got COVID, which was crazy. But yeah, no. I legit thought he was going to die at one point, and I was so stressed that it was one of the things that led me to one of the biggest mental breakdowns I've had in a long time. And suddenly, Hogan's like, let's open schools, and I was like, and I want to go up to him, grab him by his stupid little tie, shake him violently, and be like, if you were to live with what I had to go through, you wouldn't be opening schools. Just because it hasn't affected you. It's not. And he's like, well, students have a less likely chance of getting it. My brother's 23.
There's no risk, says the CDC, to reopening schools. There is a great risk. We had a risk even without COVID.
They don't care about students. They just want the most money they can make. School's a scam. Sorry.
Well, they claim that it's we've been out of schools for too long. We need the benefits of going back to school. And I'm like, but the benefits are pointless if we die.
Yeah, kind of. And I understand that students are failing school right now, and a lot of students have actually been exempt from like their finals and things to keep their best grades. Like,
Can I be exempt from finals?
No. But because you can go to your classes.
No, not most of them. Sometimes teachers do offer it. Some of them do, but it's not worth it.
Yeah, understandable. But like, yeah, a lot of students are failing, and maybe if my brother didn't get as sick as he was, or maybe millions of people weren't dying from it every day, then I'd be like, yeah, maybe. And I am going back to school. I kind of regret going back, but I think I do need to go for my own mental.
I mean, I don't blame you.
I might go back, see how I feel about it, and then call the school and be like, I can't do this if I'm that stressed, because we have to walk one way down the hall. We cannot have bags. We can only have our computer cases or something along the lines.
Like Walmart.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know how it's gonna work, and none of it, like, just, it shouldn't be needing to happen. But Hogan is threatening teachers' jobs. He's literally threatening for teachers to lose their jobs if they don't bring students back in. That's what
Maybe that's a sign we have to just get rid of school.
Just stop teaching. Go back to monkey times. I think school's important. What they teach us is, but like,
I mean,
I'm not gonna need to know calculus to teach third graders how to draw a picture.
This is a good point.
Guys, come on.
I don't blame you for wanting to go back to school.
I do.
In-person school is important.
I literally, I just need to get out of the house because I am becoming depressed. And I think that's another, and that's maybe teachers are also and the school system's all these people are dying, and so many people have to live in such toxic households, and we can't give them food when we can because they give the free breakfast and lunch.
Yeah, and that is a fair point.
People are abused at home, and for those students, I applaud you for going back with the risk. You're brave, but probably a better chance, of just keeping going if you can go back. So, I mean, it's just a big thing.
I mean, a lot of kids need school. And I don't blame anyone who wants to go back. I want to go back. I am back, technically speaking.
You want to go experience the real college.
I just wanted to have a dorm.
Yeah, honestly.
But I'm not going in classes. I'm not actually physically going to the classes because it's just, well, one, it's inconvenient. It's much easier if I just sit in my dorm and flip through the Zooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also just I'd have to wear the mask longer.
Yeah.
And not to be that guy. The mask is annoying. And I've especially I have glasses.
It's annoying.
It's necessary, but still annoying. It gets sweaty and your glasses fall up.
Good people.
Exactly.
We care about other safety.
Yeah. But I think we need to wait. And I've said this, I'm sure all of you on the podcast are tired of hearing me say this. But we need to wait. It's not time yet to reopen schools. We just haven't. I know we've been a year in quarantine. Everyone's getting antsy. Everyone's getting depressed. Everyone's getting upset. But it's not going to help anyone if we stop now.
Right. It's just...
I mean, if people actually followed the rules, then we'd be fine already, but... Masks are constrained. The vaccine isn't tested yet.
Actually, my brother would. And yes, they have been tested, and yes, they work, and no, they're different than your normal flu vaccines. They're safer. You're welcome.
Was I don't think I'm gonna get the vaccine because we don't know the side effect yet. Because we don't know the side effects. And I'm and on a podcast, on this, I'm supposed to be neutral. But they've done as best as they can. I know that seems rushed, but literally just our technology is better.
But also there is the risk of because this vaccine is different, there's different things in it than a normal vaccine.
There's always
allergens. You have to be careful because you could get the vaccine to protect yourself from COVID, but you could also die if you have an allergy to one of the things in it.
If people were just patient, we might not have to substitute. We're not talking about that. It's not the subject of this podcast. But anyway, before we go off on another tangent, two more questions. This is the last non-wrap-up question. So, very recently, so for the past couple months, last semester, my school started having this conversation about cutting a lot of majors and minors. The students protested because we're a liberal arts college. We like our arts and stuff. Saturday, they finalized the decision. They cut the majors. Mm-hmm. They cut theater, film, media studies. They cut art history. They cut a couple languages. They cut other things. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I'd have to look at the email.
You said art history as well, didn't you?
Yes. They're keeping fine arts. They're keeping studio arts, but they're cutting art history. Mm-hmm. They're replacing some things with one. They're replacing 3 majors and minors with 1 major, which is performance, it's not the same thing as theater, film, media studies or art history or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And they're creating a marine science major. Obviously, I'm not going to ask you how you feel about this specific situation, but how do you feel about removal of the arts in general for schools? Obviously, there's been like this push.
To know real quick, because I feel incredibly strong about this, that I've been an artist for 8 years of my life. And as art is literally my entire existence. My hair is pink, which clearly shows I am an art student. I have the round glasses. I am the literal meaning of art itself. You could sit me down and just teach me. You would tell me about artists and their lives, and I would just sit there and listen to it just for hours because I think it's incredibly fascinating. And the fact that literally the world and schools are trying to take away the culture of the world around us, and it's probably just America, because America's the greatest and they don't want anyone else thinking anything else. They're taking it away. So, I don't know, that they can just take away, because we need art in our lives, because without it, we wouldn't be able to express ourselves. I can give you one good reason of how art helps America right now. There are art therapists in the world that are specifically made to help our veterans deal with PTSD, trauma, helping explain their emotions because they had been in the army. Without art and teaching students about art, we lose that option to help others. Art isn't just some people trying to sell lines on a canvas or taping a banana to a canvas.
Taping a banana to a wall.
And then proceeding to eat it and getting arrested for it.
That's not what art is.
It's not. Art is culture. And they're just trying to take away that culture from us. They're
what we're doing right here is art, technically speaking.
Words is art. Words is literally art. You can never get rid of art. And I don't know why they just want to get rid of it so bad. It's so important. It's literally what makes the world go around. Art. Huh?
I wonder what art's going to come out of this pandemic.
Probably a lot of mask sculptures.
A lot of memes.
Yeah. Memes are art.
Anyway, continue with your thing. I'm sorry.
But it's such a weird thing, because I literally wanted to make a career out of art for the longest time. Now I don't, because, well, I still do. I want to be an art teacher for students, because you lose, if you can teach children about art in a way to express themselves in a good and safe way, then it helps them later in life. But the teachers are like, yes, or not the teachers, but the board is like, yes, no, you no longer need this because it is literally not useful. You know what else isn't useful? Calc 5.
Calc 5.
Yes, my brother took it.
Is it real?
Calculus 5. Calculus 2. I don't know. Why do I need to learn how to freaking what log is?
Log base 20 of 3.
Why do I need to know the unit of circles or something when I could learn how to capture a moment in a picture properly, perfectly, or how to recognize the beauty of our history, how to analyze the world around me through colors and shapes and the way the water moves, or I could read someone's work and understand exactly how they're feeling, or I could look at the way technology is art, how every intricate little detail in coding or in a machine is perfect art. Like, art is everywhere. And maybe math is everywhere too. It really is. Math is made of everything. And math is right in hand with art. It's just as important.
Some people argue math and art are
Basically the same things. They're both just meticulous. And well, I mean, math is exact. Art is more of like a, what's the word?
I mean,
perspective thing.
you can make art out of graphs.
You
I
could.
know I've spent
That's
class
hard.
periods messing with my graphing calculator, making fun little designs.
Making little pictures.
Yeah.
You little picture in your graph calculators. So, but, and like, it's so hard for me to articulate this because, like, I'm a little tired. I'm not gonna lie.
And you're obviously passionate about this.
Yeah, it's just so hard to see something I love so much be taken from, like, under me. And one day I might not be able to even be an art teacher because they're gonna steal that away from us. The students of the future aren't going to know what the Scream meant to Edward Mark, what he went through during his time of war in World War II. The Scream isn't just a funny little painting, it's his time looking and seeing war, his stress that he was under, his extreme anxiety about going home to nothing. And now everyone's just gonna look at that painting one day and be like, oh, it's a funny picture of a man going, ah! But no, it was literally anxiety at its final form. And they're gonna take away the meaning to learn what that meant. You know? Like, yeah, sure, maybe Van Gogh was crazy and we shouldn't be learning about crazy men, but his work was literally the eyes of someone you'd never see or never get to see because they don't want to show us that. But we have his pieces, and it shows us different lives. It shows us how to put ideas into practice. It's just an entire thing, and it's so much. And I could write an essay, because, like, this is so much to just put into one brain thought that I don't have. I lost my brain cells.
That's all right. I know that when I came down here for this very special interview, my driver and I were talking about this issue, and we were like, that's not fair. That's not okay.
No.
Like, well, one, we're a liberal arts college. You can't just take the arts out of liberal arts.
Then it's just liberal.
It's just nothing. We had other I can't think of what we said exactly. I thought I had it 5 minutes ago. You gotta love memory. Anyway, but no, like, I agree with you, and thank you. So one final question to wrap up. Are there any other stories or words of wisdom or final words you want to leave us with?
College is a scam. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for sharing your stories with us.
He's like, gotta cut them off. We can't let them keep talking.
You can keep talking if you have something else. I just thought that was it.
Schools are failing students because they refuse to believe that they have issues from a young age, and then parents just grow up thinking, or they'll have their kids grow up thinking that they're dumb. Like my brother, he's not dumb. He has dyslexia, and he's incredibly smart. He's one of the smartest people I know. But he had dyslexia. He has dyslexia. It hasn't stopped. But it's incredibly severe. And it was like, so he would study for hours on reading tests on how to spell simple words like telephone or race car.
Simple word.
Yeah, you can spell telephone off the top of your head though. Yeah. Like, and he would just keep failing. And they were just like, yes, your son's a failure. we're not gonna do anything about it. And then that lovely lady, Miss Citro, she was like, hey Tammy, I think your son's dyslexic, and I think you should get him checked. And Mom was like, wait, what? How suddenly a teacher's coming up to me? And she did, and my brother's severely dyslexic. And the school's like, wow, we're not going to do anything for his disability. And so he got transferred for his 5th year. And that was also my first year of going to elementary school. My mom was so scared because she was like, I don't want the teachers to ridicule you. And I was like, I understand. But I went anyway.
Fair enough.
And, yeah, so then by the time he hit to middle school, he had to relearn how to read. And that was fine. The teachers in the middle school were really nice. And then when he went to college, it just, no one was really willing to help him. So, the moral of the story is, the world isn't going to give you anything, so you got to get it yourself. And college is a scam. Thank you.
Pressing not to leave off one, but all right. No, that's fine.
I have this one teacher. His name's Mr. Blinky. And he fought for me. That was
I
cool.
know. I like Blinky.
Blinky's cool, I guess.
I never had Blinky. Anyway, I can't.
That's a shame.
We'll leave off there. Okay. All right.
I'm being silent.
So no.
I understand.
Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your story and your
thank you for giving
experiences.
me this ability to be able to talk to you like this. I've
Of
never
course.
really had the chance to speak out on these types of issues before, so it's very nice.
Well, I always want to give people a voice.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you again real soon. And
Why?
we'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.